Hello, Africa. Thanks so very much for keeping the rendezvous on this edition of Monuments on LTM Television. Live from Mankon in the Mankon division of the Northwest region of Cameroon, we celebrate the most educated foreigners of the Northwest region. Celebrate him because he has a big-hearted story, man, and we're a few months to his 90th anniversary. He has had the singular experience of celebrating the golden jubilee of his accession to the throne, a royal stool he had least expected to sit on when he recalls the hardships he suffered to acquire the financial and basic requisites of modern. The story of Fonangwafo III is a story of a traditional ruler who did not only have to reconcile tradition and modernity, but also monarchical rule and modern democratic governance. His decision, ladies and gentlemen, to run for a parliamentary seat in 1962 earned him the wrath of career politicians, including the late John Foncha, leader of the KNDP, of which Angwafo was a prominent member, because they felt that traditional leaders should not meddle in politics. The young Fon was not to be deterred. He felt Mankon people had been sidelined in politics and modern administration for too long, and a parliamentary position would enable him advance the interests of his tribe. After consultation of his people, he ran as an independent candidate and won against 4 candidates fielded by other political parties. Since then, fellow viewers of Monuments, the Fon had always represented the Mankon constituency in parliament. Under the various political dispensations, Cameroon has undergone since 1988, when he claimed to resign from politics. While the story of my life is a moving narrative of a farm-loving prince with a peculiar brand of humor marked by a not-so-cordial relationship with the Anglophone political class, with a glaring exception of Solomon Tandeng Muna, one gets the impression that the 70 pages of narrative were grossly disproportionate to the magnitude of the leadership space occupied by Fonangwafo in the past half-century. We celebrate this legacy in the history of Cameroon today because many people do not seem to sit on the throne like this able personality, who's not only been an example in the tradition of the Northwest region and Cameroon in general, but he's also been running the second position of the ruling party, the CPDM, for several years. Let's do it the traditional way and greet His Royal Majesty, S.A.N. Angwafo III. Thank you so very much, His Royal Majesty, for sparing time off your very busy schedule to talk to the viewers, itchy to know the secret behind the successful traditional ruler and politics. Royalty and politics, the story of my life, something we will talk about so that your story will be a source of inspiration to many young people out there who feel that they just have to get things very easy without really working hard to become successful. We'll start with your traditional life, His Royal Majesty. The Mankon people are known to be the great warriors, and you will still find names like Manto, I hope I'm pronouncing it well, Ndamto, Atangto, for Mankon, Tamunkon, just to name but these. What do you say about all these, His Royal Majesty?
They are my ancestors. And of course, that's what we are. We're fighting people. I learned it from my parents. I'm not a fighter myself. I am a modern ruler. That's why we do administration, we do politics, we work to earn a living, and there's most of these things in order to change our tradition. And so we can talk of the politics of these days, not those days. It was war, and that's why my grandfather had to go to war with the Bali people, assisted by Dr. Zingraf in 1891. But today, it's a modern world, it's a changed world. So I am a modern fawn, a changed fawn.
What war strategies and types of weapons or defense systems did the Mankon people have that permitted them to fight such great battles, apart from ambushing, digging trenches, hiding the women, like some would say, and children? Did they use magical powers that could make them to disappear, or only physical strength and intelligence, as Royal Majesty?
Yes, they did. They used some powers, like in Mankon, a Yetmafa was able to determine those who would be killed if they went to war, and he would select the fighting force. And he would pass through his labs, and he would find out whether you will die or you'll be wounded. That's one of the ways we've lost Yemafa. We have his bags. What they are in, we don't know. How they were used, they were made of what, we don't know. They're hanging here. Just that's the little we know what Yemafa did as far as the war was concerned. If you be wounded, go for treatment. If you die, don't go. Go, you are all right, you can fight.
The Mankon people did ally with the Bafut people and are known to have fought two great wars against German colonization. They fought two wars against the Germans and their Bali allies, in which they won the first war. I'm told His Royal Highness that the Mankon Fundum has from time immemorial had a democratic setting, with division of powers, that's the judiciary, the legislative, and of course the executive powers with checks and balances. Briefly give the various traditional institutions in place the four: the traditional council, Quifon, Kwatak Council, Takumbeng, and so on, and how they function.
Yes, that's what we are. In our traditional administration, the fund is the head of the governing organization. And we have people of the rural household and commoners. And the whole population is ruled by the Quifon. And the Quifon represents the ruling section, made of princes. And commoners and foreigners or slaves. There are two main groups.
Mankon is known to have had so many disputes over the years. His Royal Majesty with Ngembo, Balinkwen, and Songwa. What is the main cause of these conflicts, and how have you been trying to solve them, His Royal Highness?
Well, that is history. We are now surrounded by those people you name, and we all live in peace. We have little misunderstandings, particularly on land matters. The fundum is marked, and in case of trespass, today we negotiate. Informally, it's a question of breach that will bring war. We now discuss our differences.
Talk about peace negotiations. Do you think at any time the governments could reach such conclusions with the misguided ones trying to rob Cameroon of peace in the Far North region? Can they pick up an example like you've done with these neighboring villages around Mankon?
Well, we're still in a world of evolution. It is possible. We can resolve our differences by discussion or by give and take. It's possible.
Have there been any moments in the life of His Royal Majesty when he would have preferred not to be the fawn of the people of Mankon?
I never dreamt of it. I didn't like it. When I began going to school, I didn't like the way we lived. I think the prince he never knew that to live a good life, you have to earn a living. We depended mostly on the assistance of the population to get food, to get even mimbo drinks, and it was very regular to supply food to the palace, tap the mimbo to the palace, did the hunting. There was dried meat all the way and on. And we did not see life as something a prince should. Create what he wants. He must have what is given, and he will live an easy life. And to go to school, it was not very good for a prince to go to school because nobody was allowed to touch the prince. The teachers flock, and so on. You can't flock a prince. Who will be the next one? You may be flocking the next one. So no teacher should be able to talk, or to the extent of beating a prince. So in that way, I remember I was told, my father regretted it, when the Germans wanted, in the first school, German school built in Bali, the Germans wanted my grandfather to give him some children to take to the school. Only your born children, he insisted. My father deceived him and gave pages in Chindas. And my father only realized when they were grown up and they were men, it felt like Kizop. John Kizop was in Chinda here. Mm-hmm. And he comes from Bafashu. And he was one of those. My father said, is it your son? Yes. When Kizop became an interpreter and what was going on here, my father realized that there was a good reason for him to send his own son. But it's too late for him to send. Even his own children. We were many, too many for one man to educate. Mm-hmm. And to take one or two loved ones and send to school, you would scatter the palace.
Discrimination.
So there were too many. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't like you to send one and leave one. Mm-hmm. And to send any of the so many boys he had, and cannot support them in school. He loved it, but he couldn't do it.
And lucky enough, or maybe we'd say thank goodness, he had a son who was a self-made man. He was able to sponsor himself through education in Cameroon and Nigeria. He was not expecting to be the fawn of Mankon Fundum, but his fate would have its way. It comes to the intelligent ones and the ones who have the ability, capacity, and wisdom to handle people with different notions and perceptions of what we call life. The Mankon man, His Royal Majesty, is known to be very welcoming. And for Nangwafo, the second is known to have given out what is known as Hausa quarters today to settlers who came in from Nigeria. In your opinion, His Royal Majesty, has the Mankon man's hospitality been a blessing or a curse to the Mankon man when places like Atwaziri are being named today Meta quarters?
Well, when you talk of Atwaziri as Meta quarters, we have a boundary with Meta. It doesn't hurt much as it would if that was a quarter on the border of a boundary. But certainly, far from it, at one end of Mankon, we call it a quarter, Meta quarter. How do we have Meta village in Mankon? It doesn't sound any sense in that. But you know, what is the difference between Meta quarter and Atwaziri? The difference is that Meta quarter is imposed by a few Meta people who have settled in Mankon. It makes us perhaps think that to allow our neighbors or any Cameroonian to be in Mankon and be called a Cameroonian, there's a flaw in that. Because how do you? Madam, you come from Ndop. How can you have a Ndop quarter here? Baligumba quarter. How?
We just want to find out from His Royal Majesty the most spectacular and most colorful experiences he's had during his time of reign. He would love to share with the viewers inside and out of Cameroon.
I think the people would say more than myself. When you are in the race dancing or in the music dancing, the man who sees the steps you are moving and tunes the music or play the drums, sees better than when you are busy dancing. But so it's been a very trying moment in my life to become a fan. And that is why I didn't know my father's will, but I was dancing foolishly in front of him, not know what he's thinking about me until I was more or less arrested when I came home to sympathize with my family of his passing away, only to be arrested, more or less, and met his successor. And in fact, I insisted it for 2 years. I was a civil servant. I was told that I cannot be a king with a territory and a people, and yet be on the Queen of England. We can't share two kings in the same empire. I was to resign or go back to my work. So it was very difficult for me to miss the packets I earn every morning, every night, every day. The services I had, I was in charge of a womb division. I was a big man. I had people who helped me when there were no roads. I would did most of the tours with the labor force. People would take me out, they come back, they can help me at home. I work in the nurseries, and I started my little farm, so it was quite a good job for me. So all that was lost. Although my director said, as a fawn, they say, you are a fawn? I say, yes. A king? I say, yes. You have a territory? I say, yes. The people say, oh, then why are you refusing? For 2 years you refused to resign. They said they have paid you for 2 years. For doing what? He did something that made me change my mind and try to see whether I can do something. He told me, he said, look, You can be fond of your people with land. Teach them agriculture. It's the same thing you are doing. Must you only do it for the one people? You can't do it. I thought maybe I could make some additional work as a fund and teach my people some farming techniques that will improve their living style. Then I resigned after 2 years. I was here for 2 years. The head office in Bambui, the pay clerk came every month with my salary. But it wasn't only salary. You have money to run my station. There will be no money to run my fund. But this perhaps looks sensible. Then I resigned my appointment. And the only thing that I thought I could maintain is my job. I was finding a way of combining my agricultural techniques with my ruling to see how I can live. Thank God I am still talking after my resignation.
And the people of Mankon are so proud listening to you talk at this hour on LTM television. Just so you know, the story of my life as a springboard to delve into the instructive and eventful life of a living legend who is not only a down-to-earth character, I must confess, but also a mountain of a man who might have had the effect of making even men of average height feel like Lilliputians. The story of my life is a fascinating autobiographical account of a life rich in controversy, leadership, service, achievement, and innovation. Born 1925 into the prominent and influential royal family of Mankon in the Bamenda grass fields of Cameroon, His Royal Majesty Solomon Anyegamutu Ndefru least expected becoming king, only to find himself the chosen one following the death of his father in 1959. As Fonangwafo III of Mankon, one of the most educated traditional rulers at the dawn of independence, he succeeded into parliament first as an independent and subsequently as a member of the Cameroon National Union. He has served as first national vice president of Paul Biya's Cameroon's People Democratic Movement since 1990. And this unique, analytical and insightful reflection, years into his reign, Fonangwafo III discusses growing up in colonial times, his surprise appointment as king, the 1961 Cameroon plebiscite, and his initiation into politics, being king and politician, coping with the hostility of the modern power elite towards his active involvement in politics, churches, schools, and politics, life as an agriculturist, and investments in turning the kingdom of Mankon. He argues that the best way of consolidating traditions is to make them modern, and that modernity can only make sense to the extent that it is firmly grounded in traditions. In many ways, ladies and gentlemen, His Royal Majesty Fonangwafo III feels his life encapsulates this negotiation and reconciliation of continuity and change. The reason why we're celebrating him on monuments today because he is a monument of the history of Cameroon and an example to emulate across the continent and the globe. We tender a microphone to very important personalities in the fandom or in the kingdom of Mankon, and they tell us what they make of his reign. We'll be right back. Standing in front of Atum, the heart of the Mankon Palace, it's a privilege to talk to one of the notables under the permission of His Royal Majesty Fonangwafo III, who will be telling us what he makes of the reign of this noble personality and a great leader. Hello, sir. What do you make of the reign of His Royal Majesty Fonangwa for the third of the Mankon people?
It's highly distinguished because the Fon has lived 4 generations. And within these 4 generations, he incarnated the reasoning and the aptitudes throughout this generation. When he interacts with those of my generation, we have the same